Do the Atlanta Falcons have one more big move left in free agency? Will they pull off a major trade? In this video, I'll break it all down and also share my prediction on who the Falcons might draft based on their recent moves. Now, the NFL's new league year has officially begun. That means teams can finally sign players to contracts, not just agree to deals. And the Falcons have already made some key moves. First, they re-signed defensive tackle Taquan Graham to a one-year deal. The details are still coming out, but this looks like a depth move. And honestly, I think this could be a sign that the Falcons might move on from David Onyemata. I know some fans won't like to hear that, but with several defensive tackles already on the roster, they can't keep 5 or 6 guys at the same position. This move could mean Onyemata is on the chopping block, and the Falcons might look for fresh talent in the draft. Next, the Falcons re-signed wide receiver Cordell Hodge to a 2-year, $6 million deal. A lot of people know Hodge for his work on special teams, but he also brings value as a depth piece at wide receiver. Injuries happen. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Ray McCloud all dealt with them last season. So keeping a reliable player like Hodge makes sense. He knows the system, he has speed, and he's proven he can step up when needed. This move also likely means the Falcons are out of the Cooper Kupp sweepstakes. Some fans hope they'd go after Kupp, but with this signing, it looks like they're sticking with their current group of receivers. So what's next for Atlanta? Could there be another surprise move? Let's dive deeper. With the Falcons re-signing Cordell Hodge, it's now clear Cooper Kupp is not coming to Atlanta. Aside from that, there hasn't been much movement in free agency. They did sign a quarterback earlier today, but the big news is the ongoing discussion about a Trey Hendrickson trade. Reports say the Cincinnati Bengals want a first-round pick, plus more, for Hendrickson. But let's be real, this is just a classic negotiation tactic. Teams often start with a high asking price and then work their way down. Here's why this situation is encouraging for the Falcons. The Bengals seem serious about trading Hendrickson. If they're naming a price, that means they're open to offers. This reminds me of the DK Metcalf trade situation, where the Seahawks initially asked for a first-round pick, but eventually settled for a second-rounder. The same thing could happen here. The Falcons have a second-round pick that they could use to negotiate a deal for Hendrickson. And financially, it actually makes sense. He's set to earn $16 million next season, and his new contract would kick in the following year, just as Kirk Cousins' contract comes off the books. That means Atlanta could afford Hendrickson in the long run. So will the Falcons make a move? That remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. Trey Hendrickson is definitely available, and Atlanta could be in the mix. There's been a lot of buzz and questions about this situation, so let's break it down. One big piece of discouraging news came late in the day from Adam Schefter. He reported that free agent quarterback Russell Wilson is scheduled to fly to Cleveland to visit with the Browns on Thursday. Then he will fly to New York that night to meet with the Giants. As Falcons fans, we need to cross our fingers and hope he lands with the Giants. Why? Because this is not great news for Atlanta. Kirk Cousins was considered Cleveland's top choice, but if the Browns are talking to Wilson, it means their focus is shifting. If Wilson signs with Cleveland, the chances of the Falcons trading Cousins this offseason drop from around 40% to just 5–10%. There's still a small chance. Tennessee might need a quarterback if they decide not to draft Cam Ward, but the number of potential landing spots is shrinking fast. Cleveland would have been a great fit for Cousins, but now things are uncertain. So let's keep an eye on this situation. Hopefully, Wilson chooses New York, which makes more sense for him anyway. It's a bigger market, better for his brand, and he could mentor a younger team there. But for now, we'll just have to wait and see. Last but not least, the Atlanta Falcons made a big statement today. Nearly 10 of their assistants showed up at the University of Georgia's Pro Day. Now here's why this matters. When the Falcons send a large group to a pro day, it usually means they're seriously interested in drafting a player from that school. A perfect example. Last year, they took a team trip to Seattle to watch Michael Penix Jr. play. Then they drafted him. So who were they scouting this time? Some believe they were checking out a defensive tackle, but I think their real target was safety Malachi Starks. If he's still available at pick 15 or later, I believe the Falcons will draft him. Personally, I think they should trade back and collect more picks, but the Falcons might see Starks as a bust-proof player, a reliable safety who could solidify their secondary for the next 5 years. Of course, some reports suggest they were looking at a linebacker or an edge rusher, but history tells us that when the Falcons' coaching staff and front office show up in big numbers, they usually end up drafting a player from that visit. That's all for today's updates. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. We're on the road to 3K subs, so help me out. And if you want more videos like this, check out this one right here. As always, peace.